My daughter booked me a Caribbean cruise to Unwind, but the night before, I overheard her say the ticket was one way. My chest ached, yet I smiled. Years of raising her teaching me to keep my calm. I quietly slipped the ticket into my wallet beside a new folder I'd labeled Proof. That was only the beginning of her regrets. The porch light glowed soft against the Charleston dusk as I folded linen on the wicker chair. Seagulls dipped over the harbor, their calls sharp against the hum of passing cars. I set my pill organizer by the window. Each square clicked shut, neat and certain. Aging with dignity meant staying organized. No matter what storms were blowing, my church friend had texted me about Sunday service, and the AARP card by my phone made me smile wryly. Little reminders of the world's expectations of women like me. The cruise sat on the table in a glossy folder, pitched as a gift, neighbors said. Good for you, baby, you deserve it. I nodded, but inside I felt something off. Gratitude mixed with a prickle at the back of my neck. I'd worked too long, saved too carefully, to feel like a charity case. I had always believed women my age stayed standing not by luck, but by keeping eyes open, mouth shut, and ears sharp. When Milas swept in, heels clicking on my old hardwood, her hug was quick and showy, the kind meant for anyone watching. Her phone lay face down, always face down, on the counter. Don't sweat the details, Mom, she said, voice smooth. We'll take this off your plate. You deserve a real reset. She sprinkled words about bills, umbrellas, streamlining, and my gut tightened. She miswrote my middle initial on a form, and I corrected her gently. That tiny slip told me more than her polished smile. Then came the line that stayed with me. After this trip, everything will settle. The way she laughed afterward, it had sweetness, but it carried teeth. Later, as I fetched my blood pressure pills, I passed the half-closed door. Her voice slipped through, hushed but clear. No, it's a one-way. Once she boards, we're done babysitting. With the policy and the house, we're free. The words hung like cold iron. Another phrase. We agreed, no return. Close out accounts. I did not flinch. I slowed my breath. Counted heartbeats. In my mind, I time-stamped every word. At my age, crying is for private rooms and drawn curtains. Strategy is for hallways where no one knows you're listening. Inside, I whispered, All right, sweetheart, we'll play it your way. I smiled, though no one could see. In the quiet after, I repeated her phrases aloud, soft as prayer. One way, policy, house, free, and I scribbled them on a sticky note, slipped it in my Bible, snapped a photo on my phone. I tucked my lawyer's card in my purse. Measure twice. Cut once, I muttered. Ironing a blouse for the trip. If they wanted me gone, then I would go, but I'd be the one steering. The next morning, I called the travel office. Can you confirm my full itinerary, departure and return? I asked. The agent tapped keys. I see you're outbound, she said carefully. I don't see a return to Charleston. That's unusual. I asked for written confirmation and gave my Gmail. Minutes later, the email came. Plain as day. I forwarded it straight to my folder labeled House and Policy and quietly BCC'd Odessa Furlong. I told myself then, 3 regrets would be delivered, 1 for the law, 1 for the crowd, and 1 for the bloodline. The door opened. Miley stood there with a smile too soft. Ready to unwind, Mom? The word coiled in my ear. I slipped my phone into a recipe book and answered warmly. I'm ready, baby. My eyes caught the folder under her arm, a colored tab marked Estate. I touched my pearls, steady as stone, and decided to let her feel safe a little longer. Dinner was laid out simple but proud. Salmon with lemon, collard greens soft with a hint of vinegar, cornbread steaming from the oven. I moved slow, setting out the silverware, keeping my rhythm steady, across the table. Miley spoke about tomorrow's toast as if it were a bridal shower. Then she dropped the word. Closure. Once. Twice. Let yourself have closure. Mom, this trip can be closure too. My hand tightened on the serving spoon. That word didn't belong in dinner talk. It sounded less like comfort, more like a final bow. I told her to pack a sweater for the sea breeze. She answered without a glance. Already handled. I tried another angle. Which day did you book my return? Her smile was practiced. It's all bundled, Mom. Then she shifted the subject to tomorrow's menu like she was the hostess of my life. I filed her words: bundled, closure, handled, verbs that box me up like laundry. I let silence do the heavy work in Charleston. Silence is as sharp as any ledger. Later, I asked for a copy of the travel folder. She offered shiny brochures but clutched the tabbed binder to her side. You know me, honey, I said, voice light. Measure twice. Cut once. That flicker in her jaw told me she heard the barb. I requested the emergency contacts on the cruise manifest. I'll add those later, she said, breezy as a weatherman, then veered back to her toast plans. I smiled, steady. Strategy over spectacle. After supper, while rinsing plates, I paused near her office door. Words slid through the crack. Executor, beneficiary, house transfer. Her tone was clipped, and another voice on speaker said, clean title after her trip. My blood cooled. Those weren't vacation terms. They were estate words. I memorized every one, whispered them back like scripture. Executor, beneficiary, transfer, proof of motive, not hospitality. That night, I pulled out my Bible, slipped in my sticky note timeline, and snapped photos. I forwarded the missing return email again, this time to my backup account labeled House and Policy. I called the agency once more, asked for a PDF confirming the absent return ticket. Paper over promises. That's the elder way. I noted every color tab I'd seen. Blue for travel, red for estate, green for insurance. My rule was set. No drama, only receipts. The next morning, a knock at the door brought Thorne Mallory. Company badge in hand, he spoke polite but firm. We're confirming recent changes to your policy. I kept the chain on. What changes? He read from his sheet. Beneficiary update pending, expedited because of travel. My heart thumped once, then steadied. Send it to me in writing, I said, handing him a neutral email address. He nodded, left his card. Another piece of the puzzle slipped into my purse. Over tea. I mentioned it. An insurance rep stopped by today. Clerical check. He said, Milas froze, then smoothed it out. Routine before big trips. Mom. I held her gaze. Then I'll keep copies for my files. Her smile cracked into a brittle laugh. Whatever makes you comfortable. That word again. Closure. I sipped slow, filed her reaction. That evening, she announced the toast. Festive, Mom. Wear something bright. I chose a quiet green dress. Dignity, not spectacle. As I tucked Thorne's card behind my license and placed the email on top of my wallet, I thought, if she wanted an audience, I would make sure every soul remembered the words spoken. The wine bar smelled of oak and perfume, the kind of place built for photographs, not conversations. I arrived a few minutes early, steadying myself at the doorway. The room was small, dressed in soft light, but I noticed the stools had no backs, hard on my knees, and the music was too loud for plain talk. My daughter had placed me at the center table, lit like a stage. Two of her friends I hardly knew leaned close with bright smiles. So excited for your big trip, one chirped. I kept my purse zipped, my phone and the printout of the one-way email tucked into a leather wallet. I sipped water. Not wine. Clarity was armor. Milas floated around the room like a hostess in a showroom. She deserves closure, she told one couple. This trip is for her peace. Each phrase flattened me into a project, a chapter to be shelved. Her friends repeated it back like gospel. Must feel good to close a chapter. Miss Quenby, I smiled gently. I'm healthy, steady, and traveling because I can. My words stood upright. Even when their script bent me flat, the clinking of her glass stilled the chatter. She beamed, camera ready. Mom's been through so much, she began. This trip is her way to finally close things. She paused, savoring the phrasing. We've arranged everything so she can just drift, finally let go. Her words landed heavy, like dirt shoveled onto something still breathing. A few clapped politely, uncertain. A woman nearby squeezed my hand and whispered, "Bless your heart." Humiliation pressed against my chest, but I sat still, noting every face, every reaction. Witnesses matter when the truth comes calling. When a guest asked about my plans, I let my voice carry calm pride. I've charted afternoons for art walks and lectures. My doctor cleared me. Fit as ever, I keep my own travel documents, keeps me sharp. The couple smiled, offered to send me photos later. With that, I gathered quiet allies. My daughter's eyes narrowed, measuring every word. Then phones buzzed like bees around the table. A guest leaned over, whispering, "Look at this." On her screen was a post, fresh and cruel, a photo of me from the porch, captioned by Miles, "One last trip with Mom, time to move on." The comments flowed like poison. "Proud of you for making hard choices. She'll finally get rest. Doing the right thing." I held the screen steady. Asked the guest to send me the screenshot with a timestamp. I snapped one myself. Evidence gathered, tucked into my mental file. Public record is a blade sharper than any knife. I chose civility as my shield. I asked about grandchildren, about Sunday choirs, about the market stalls. I said, "Travel keeps me learning. I'm building a photo album." When I added, "I'm keeping every itinerary and receipt for my files. I'm old-fashioned that way." I saw her smile strain. I texted myself one word, closure, 3 times, marking the moment on the sidewalk. The marsh breeze brushed my face. My daughter slipped beside me, voice lowered. "You'll sleep well at sea. Mom?" I turned. Calm as a stone. "I sleep well at home, at sea. I'll keep watch." I held her gaze until she looked away. By morning, I had made up my mind. The next witness would wear a uniform. The Charleston sun was high when I wheeled my small bag up the gangway, toed on my shoulder. I kept my eyes open the way a woman my age learns to, counting cameras, noting crew stations, mapping exits like aisles at the grocery store. The welcome table glistened with champagne, but I took only water. "Thank you, sweetheart," I told the smiling crew member who scanned my card. I set my phone brightness low and tapped a note to myself. Boarded, day 1, paper first, feelings later. The cabin was dressed like a photograph. Fresh orchids, folded towels, a brochure urging me to unwind at sea. I slid my rolling bag inside and tested the balcony door. It caught, dragged, then gave with a scrape of metal against metal. The latch wobbled beneath my hand as if it wanted to make its own decision. Chairs sat too close to the rail, as though someone had placed them for a view that leaned over the edge. I stepped back, planted my feet, and filmed the sticky track. My pulse stayed even, but I said aloud, "Door catches, latch loose, chairs too close." Words anchor memory when witnesses aren't present. At the muster drill, I studied uniforms, searching for the calmest eyes. Afterward, I approached a clipboard-carrying crew member. "Could you log a maintenance check on my balcony? The latch sticks. I'd prefer it safe before sundown." My voice was polite, precise. "No fuss." He nodded. Scribbled a number. I repeated it softly, tucking it away like scripture. Back in my cabin, a knock came. A young technician arrived with tools, and beside him stood Karen Winslow with a clipboard. They worked the track, muttering. "This one was reassigned this morning. Ocean view requests get priority." Winslow glanced at the file. "Your daughter was thorough. Called twice to make sure this exact cabin stayed on hold." His words dropped like pebbles into a still pond. My smile never faltered. "That's considerate of her," I said, snapping a photo of his badge as my phone's lock screen lit. The latch tightened under the technician's wrench. "Sea mist makes it slick," he warned. "Keep it fully shut at night." They promised a work order printout when the door closed behind them. I filed new photos, emailed myself a note, and created a folder labeled Ship, Maintenance, Old Habits, Documents in Triplicate, Keep an Elder Strong. I dragged the chairs 6 feet back, photographed their new position, and texted Odessa a line as soft as butter. "Ocean view is pretty. Taking lots of pictures. No details, just a breadcrumb." That evening, I walked the hall, leaning on the rail to mask my glance at other balconies. Smooth clicks echoed from their latches. No drag, no wobble. A steward shrugged when I asked if doors often stuck. "Varies," he said, then added, "Some are fussed with by guests." I repeated the phrase in my head. Fussed with, language matters. Back in my cabin, the latch clicked clean under my hand. I wedged a chair leg under the handle anyway. Low-tech security still counts. Later. A paper slid under my door. Guest services, paperwork ready for pickup in the morning. I held it under the lamp, hearing Winslow's voice again. "Your daughter called twice. If she picked this balcony for me," I thought, "I'd choose the audience for her." I picked up the envelope at guest services just after breakfast. Inside was the maintenance work order copy, time-stamped and clean. I slid it into my travel wallet behind the missing return email. Both sheets pressed flat against each other like companions in a file. The hallway hummed with calm, just the sound of shoes on carpet and steel drums faint from the pool deck. Nice, but I wasn't here for sunshine or music. My ledger had to stay louder than any cruise band. I opened my phone, bought the basic Wi-Fi plan, and toggled every setting I knew to save data. Then I created a new folder. Finance. Live. I whispered under my breath. Let's see what money wants to tell me today. The first ping nearly took my breath. Unusual transfer attempt. $9,800. My face didn't move, but my fingers flew. I opened the bank app and pressed the secure call button. A woman's voice answered, clipped and neutral. Miss Quenby, we're seeing a new payee, Vera Holdings. Do you recognize it? My jaw set. No, I do not. Freeze external transfers. Lock Zelle, block new payees, and note elder exploitation review requested. I demanded a case number, a PDF, and the IP of the attempt. She promised it by end of day. I texted Odessa. Bank flagged a transfer. Paperwork coming. Her reply came fast. I'm here. That steadied me. I placed 90-day fraud alerts with all 3 bureaus. I changed my account nickname to something only I'd know. I set bill pay limits down to pennies and reinstated an old passphrase from 1999. Every penny is married to a paper, I muttered as I filed the alert email into my archive. No gossip, no flailing, just steps. Silence was better evidence than outrage. By late afternoon, the promised PDF arrived. I opened it with hands steady but stomach tight. A forged signature leapt out at me, my name, but not my hand. The loop in the queue of Quenby floated wide open. Mine always closes firm. The notary stamp showed a county I hadn't been near in months. Smudged ink, sloppy detail. I snapped screenshots of each flaw. Then I replied to the fraud desk. Suspected forged wet signature. Preserve original intake path and all logs. I attach passport and refinance exemplars. Close queue loops, the real thing. I ended with a line I learned decades ago. I will cooperate fully and I expect full preservation of records. Evening drew close, and so did Malis. She breezed in, perfume first, smile practiced. How's the sea air, Mom? I kept my tone light. Brisk, keeps me awake. She asked if I needed spending cash. I lifted my head. I budgeted just fine. I keep my accounts tidy, every penny is accounted for. Her smile flickered. Then she retreated into chatter about dessert buffets. I logged her slip privately. She wanted to test for access. I declined near midnight. Another buzz. The bank flagged a second attempt. Same name, different device. I stared at the glow of the screen until my pulse slowed. Then I opened a new note and wrote 3 words. Call her now. If she wanted easy money, she'd have to say it out loud. I sat at the little desk in my cabin. Lamp dim. Sea humming low against the hull. My phone rested flat. Screen down, recorder already tested with a 3-second clip. Clear enough. I whispered a few practice prompts I'd used all my life. Remind me, baby. Say that again so I can write it down. My breath slowed. Anger had no place in the front seat tonight. I tapped record and then tapped Milas's name. She answered, sweet as sugar. How's the sea air, Mom? I kept my voice calm. Keeps me awake. Then I asked, soft but sharp. We're set for the return date, right? There was a pause. Then she slipped. It's one way, less fuss. I told you we'd handle the rest after... I repeated her words back. One way, after you told me. She didn't catch the trap. And the policy, the house? I pressed gently. She laughed, quick and brittle. Mom, don't overthink. Closure needs space. The word landed on tape like a signature. I nudged again. So the accounts move under your umbrella and I don't have to track anything? She replied without hesitation. Exactly. Vera Holdings is just a shell. Clean and done. I leaned closer to the mic. Say that name again. She did. I walked slowly into the corridor near guest services while keeping her talking. A wall camera caught me, phone in hand. So, no return flight? I asked once more. Not yet, she said, tone cooling. It's easier this way. I pushed a little. And if something happens at sea, she snapped. Mom, don't be dramatic. That sealed it. I ended with, all right, sweetheart, we'll play it your way. I hit stop, saved the file as S7, one way plus Vera, time, and snapped a photo of the corridor clock, paper, camera, audio, all aligned. Minutes later, my phone buzzed again. Odessa. Her voice carried urgency. She called me earlier. Althea asking about executors and clean title while Mom travels. I didn't like it. I wrote each phrase down. Send me an email summary. Subject line, executor, pre-trip inquiry. Odessa promised, even adding screenshots of her log. Thank you. I told her, you're my anchor tonight. The phrase expedite probate joined my ledger beside Vera Holdings before I could exhale. Another ping. Evadny. Her voice shook. Auntie, she told us not to enable you. Said you're tired, that this trip helps everyone. My chest tightened. Did she mention the house? Silence, then. She said it wouldn't be your worry. I steadied myself. Forward me any texts. Save everything. Don't delete. Evadny whispered. I'm sorry, I told her. You didn't do this. You just told the truth. By the time I hung up, I had 3 threads in my hands. Her own words. Odessa's warning, Evadny's sorrow. I exported the call audio into a secure folder, typed a memo of quotes and times, screenshotted my log, every piece a stitch in a rope I was braiding by hand before sunrise. I wrote one line in my notebook, 3 regrets begin tomorrow. Then I scheduled a meeting with ship security after breakfast, attaching the one-way email and the maintenance work order. If she wanted me to drift, I'd choose the storm. I spent the afternoon combing through every sheet I had collected, emails, work orders, the fraud notice, the recorded call. Each piece carried its own weight, but together they formed a wall. I wrote one sentence in my notebook. Deliver regret 1, law. Deliver regret 2, witnesses. That was my mission for the night. I dressed in quiet green, not flashy, but steady, shoes low enough to keep me balanced on carpet and ship's way. My phone was set to do not disturb for all but security and the bank. I labeled folders legal and public, so one slip of my thumb wouldn't ruin the order. As I closed my notebook, I whispered a line I'd carried since girlhood. Calm as the blade, in the security office. I laid the documents out in order, my hands slow, deliberate. I requested an incident number, the watch officer's name, and his written acknowledgement that my files were now part of the ship's record. I slid Karen Winslow's maintenance order across the desk. No accusation, just fact. This is safety related, I said, and it belongs here. He confirmed ballroom cameras would be live and gave me the angles. I sent myself a summary email right there in front of him. CCing guest services. Security brief completed. See incident number. The chain was sealed. Next stop was the business center. I transmitted the recorded call and forged signature packet to my attorney's secure portal, flagged as urgent. I requested immediate holds on the bank and insurance accounts. Preserve every log, freeze all changes. I asked for a cease and desist letter to Melis, revoking any supposed access she thought she had. Then I printed a single page, bullet points only, dates and numbers. Truth doesn't need adjectives. I tucked it into an envelope labeled for the captain, before the gala. I walked the ballroom. I chose a seat near the aisle. 3 steps from the microphone. I texted a kind couple I'd met earlier. Please take photos tonight and send them right away. They agreed without hesitation. I checked where I could hand the captain's aide my envelope, where the cameras were pointed, where I could stand without blocking staff. Water sat at my place setting. Wine would have clouded my edge. When the captain finished his welcome, I rose. Althea Quenby, I said evenly. I'm entering a passenger safety statement into the ship's record. I handed the envelope forward and spoke case numbers, maintenance, bank, insurance. For the avoidance of doubt, I added, I have revoked unauthorized access to my estate. Any attempt to act on my behalf without consent will be litigated. The ballroom went still. Silence can weigh more than applause. I pressed the next folder. Public. Into the mic came Milas's own voice. It's one way, less fuss. Vera Holdings is just a shell, clean and done. Gasps rippled across the tables. I stopped the clip after 20 seconds. This audio and supporting documents are already with counsel and the ship, I ended with. I prefer clarity to whispers. Mila shot to her feet, plastering on a smile. Mom is confused. This is private. I didn't raise my tone. Then it can be handled by private counsel and public records. Someone in the crowd spoke up. We all heard it, another added. That sounded serious. Security moved gently. The captain's aide collected the mic, and music paused. I sat back, lifted my water, and wrote down the time to the minute. Later, security confirmed my incident number update. I forwarded my attorney, S8 served, S9 played, room witnessed, captain received packet. I asked security to preserve camera footage. They nodded. I didn't speak to Malus. Silence was my weapon. Walking back through the crowd, spine straight, I felt no triumph. Just completion. Phase 1 and 2 were done. That night on the balcony, the sea pushed hard against the rail. I looked at my notebook. 2 regrets delivered. 1 remained. Bloodline. My phone lit with an email, my attorney confirming holds in place. He asked if I wanted a formal public notice drafted by morning. My reply was 1 word, yes. I woke before the ship's lights stirred. Notebook open in my lap. The words stared back at me. 2 regrets delivered. 1 remains. I underlined them twice, pressing hard enough to leave grooves in the paper. Coffee steamed in the small cabin pot, its bitter smell reminding me of mornings back home. I stretched my back, whispering the phrase I had carried like armor. Calm is the blade. My inbox held confirmation. Holds active. Accounts frozen. Incident logs updated. I drafted a 1-page notice for the public record. The last line was clear. I withdraw consent from Miles Vera to act on my behalf. Then I added a truth older women say when we draw a line. This is not anger. This is housekeeping. In the business center, the printer hummed steady. I watched page after page slide out. Public notice, revocation of informal authority, a no-contact order, and a letter for the captain's file. I dated and initialed each sheet at the corner, a habit I'd learned from courthouse clerks decades ago. I attached the transcript of Milas's own words with precise timestamps. 3 envelopes sat before me. Captain Security Counsel. I whispered to myself. Paper doesn't shout, it decides. The captain's office smelled of wood polish and sea air. I handed over the captain envelope. Please append this to last night's log, I said. Security confirmed the ballroom footage would be preserved. Emailing me the incident number while I watched them type, I added 1 more request to the record. No cabin access by Miles Vera without my presence. Their pens scratched, their keys clicked, and I felt the floor beneath me steady. I thanked them, polite as any neighbor at a block meeting, and walked out lighter, in the atrium, where passengers lounged under the skylight and staff hurried past. Miley's appeared. Her smile trembled. We should talk privately. I shook my head. Here is fine. My voice stayed even. I handed her the single page, revocation and no contact. Effective immediately. You are not my agent, executor, or emergency contact. From my purse, I slid her house key across the table. Return not required. Locks will be changed. Then I delivered the line I'd saved. This is the last check you'll ever cash in my name. Her face flickered. She whispered, You're overreacting. I answered, The law is reacting. I'm complying. Her phone buzzed twice. First, the cease and desist from my attorney. Second, confirmation from the bank. Beneficiary changes frozen. Branch-only verification required. She paled. A security officer passed nearby, not interfering, just present. I looked at her one last time. We're done. Then I walked toward the daylight without turning back. By afternoon, Charleston's humid air wrapped around me as I sat in my attorney's office. We signed a revised will, trust allocations, and a no trespass letter. I redirected funds to a church scholarship and a modest bequest to Evadne. Contingent on clean distance from Milas, my pen looped a tight queue, closed, strong, documents notarized, scanned, preserved. I scheduled a meeting with Elder Services to file an exploitation report. Then I ordered new locks and a camera doorbell. Boundaries, in wood and steel. That evening, I cooked collards and cornbread, the kitchen warm with familiar smells. I sent Odessa a short message. We're square. Thank you. She replied with a hymn link. I thanked Karen Winslow for the paperwork copy. His reply was simple. "Stay steady, ma'am, at my table, in the home I chose," I whispered. "It's over for me." Before bed, I wrote one last line in my notebook. 3 regrets delivered. I slid it onto the shelf, hung my keys on the hook, and looked out toward the marsh. Tomorrow, I told myself, I would begin the chapter she could never write for me.